He's telling us okay.
All right, great. I couldn't see it through the glass. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm now going to call to order the November 5th, 2020 Special Town Board Meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada, absent. Councilwoman Jakewith,
Here.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Here.
Councilman McPartlin,
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I'm now going to open the public hearing. We had a number of residents pre-register to speak during the public hearing. So I'm going to call out those individuals. And if you registered but did not wish to speak, just a quick shake of the head, not ready to speak is fine. I have first up on my list, Leslie Gold.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. I'm going to be very brief because it's just that kind of night. But I'm very alarmed by the amount of the fund balance that's going to be used this year. It's just very troublesome and concerning, and I know it's a tough year. I know there's been expenses that were not anticipated and all that, but it's still very concerning. I had requested or suggested or whatever last year, and I believe the year before, that the budget should include a listing of all the fees and what changes were being anticipated. I don't see that attached to the budget.
I don't think we've decided yet, but your suggestion is certainly being taken into, the supervisor and I have discussed that you will see a list, Leslie.
Just looking at the yard waste revenue, it sure looks like there's a built-in increase there. So I would like those numbers, and I really think they're appropriate to be made available at least by the budget hearing itself.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next on my list, I have Linda Rizzo.
Linda Rizzo, 2229 Fairlawn Parkway, Niskayuna. I'm addressing a similar concern that Leslie brought up, the fund balance, and I'd like to give a little historical perspective on this. In 2008, a man by the name of Joe Landry won the election, and he inherited the budget, of course, in January that the previous supervisor had given to him. It was passed by Luke Smith. It was a fair budget. Luke Smith whittled down the amount that he was going to have to charge the taxpayers. It was before the 2% cap. Now, in 2009, the same supervisor, Joe Landry, faced a tremendous economic downturn. And he had to develop that budget at that point. Did he use the fund balance? No. He balanced it during one of our worst economic periods. And he did this for the whole time he was superintendent. I was at a meeting today, a school meeting. He did this the whole time he was supervisor. I think it was almost 10 years, am I wrong? Okay, for the 10 years. And when he left this town as the supervisor, he left a balanced budget, never went over the tax cap, and left a huge fund balance. Now that's a historical perspective. And again, keep in mind, the economic downturn in 2009, if you remember, the stock market crashed. People lost 50% of their IRA, or tax shelter annuities. The town got hit. No use of the fund balance, a balanced budget. Now, we come to last year. What happened last year? Did we have COVID? No. we had to use the fund balance. Why? Overestimated revenues, underestimated expenses. Deficit spending, that's what we got into. This year, COVID. This COVID is nothing like the 2009 economic downturn. I'm sorry. It just isn't. As far as people losing half their IRA and their tax shelter, their retirement plans, and all that. We're using the fund balance again, and it's even more. Now, I'm addressing the majority of the board on this issue. Last year, you voted against the budget. It was an election year. You voted against it, quote, because it had more holes than Swiss cheese. You were right. It wasn't your budget. They were using the fund balance. And I asked one of the seated board members what the explanation for voting it down, and it was because, Linda, the fund balance, you know, is going to put us in a deficit. Now you've got even a worse situation. I agree it's the supervisor's budget. But if you vote to approve it, it's your budget. It's your deficit. And come next year, when January hits, you know, people start gearing up for the November election, and by the time that comes, COVID, hopefully people will get inoculated or whatever. We won't be in this mess. You can't come out and criticize the budget. You can't say, oh, did a terrible job, because once you vote on it, it is no longer Supervisor Syed's budget. If you vote yes, it's your budget. So please think about that, because you're going to cause another deficit in the town. You're going to be responsible for that deficit. And if you can't change things in the budget, fine, it's not your budget. But to do so, it's your budget. Let me put it bluntly. So next year when election comes around, if you vote for this, please do not go in the press, do not have in campaign literature that, oh, the budget has been terrible, look at the deficit. Because once you vote yes, you own it. And that's the point I want to bring out. We have never had the fund balance used in our budget. I don't even think Luke Smith used it to balance the budget. I can't remember, but I maybe he did, but we never were in deficit spending. Joe Landry never used the fund balance. And 2009 was not a good year. Now, 2 years in a row, we had to use the fund balance. COVID is not an excuse. If it wasn't an excuse in 2009, it can't possibly be an excuse today. So you've got the board majority. I don't care if it's 3 or 4. Whoever votes on this budget owns it. If you vote yes, that's all I'm going to say. And it's up to you. You have to make that decision. And I hope you don't make a bad decision. And my final caveat, we had 3 board members who voted to give the comptroller $20,000. And I applauded you for that. Then it turns around, they vote to have the same person investigated to see if they should get the $20,000 or what else could be dug up. That made no sense to me. It just didn't make any sense. But that happened, okay? When you do things like that, you own it. You own it. You own it by your vote. So I hope you think about this. I hope you take what I'm saying into consideration. But remember, it's my wallet. It's the wallet of the taxpayers in this town. You know, people living on Regent Street, Orchard Park, Garden Street, Dean Street, Myron. These are average people. They're not multimillionaires. They just are trying to enjoy themselves, to try to provide for their families. But you've got a lot of people in this town, and if they're watching tonight at home, they know. I mean,